Dr. Omar Khalid stepped from the exploration shuttle onto the pale violet sands of Ilsur 5, his boots sinking softly with each careful step. The air smelled faintly of wildflowers, though no blossoms were visible anywhere. He paused, adjusting the strap of his data pack as he gazed at towering stone pillars carved with strange symbols. His heart thudded in his chest, not from fear, but from the thrill of discovery. This world had been only a legend on Earth, a whisper in dusty archives. Now, under twin, emerald skies, he felt both excitement and a gentle tug of loneliness. He had left behind familiar skyscrapers and crowded streets for this silent desert, trading the hum of city life for the hush of alien winds. As Omar ran a gloved hand over the smooth surface of an obelisk, he marveled at the delicate craftsmanship. The symbols seemed to glow faintly beneath his touch, as if reacting to his presence. He knelt to place a sensor at the base, checking the power readings. They flickered near zero, confirming the ruin's long dormancy. A soft hum from his comm unit told him his team was preparing equipment nearby. He straightened and looked toward the horizon, where a faint glimmer marked the outline of the ancient palace. It rose like a mirage, tall spires and sweeping arches of crystal and metal, reflecting the dying light. The sight sent a thrill through his veins. He was about to unlock history's secrets. Suddenly, the air shifted. A hush fell as though the planet itself held its breath. Omar's skin tingled when he sensed movement behind him. He turned quickly, half expecting a stray researcher lost in the dunes. Instead, a figure emerged from the Haza woman whose skin shimmered with subtle iridescence. Her robes flowed like liquid light around her slender form. She moved with grace and purpose, closing the distance in silent steps. Omar's chest tightened. He fumbled for words but only managed a soft hello. Before he could react further, she stepped forward and wrapped her arms around him. The embrace was gentle yet firm, as if she sought comfort and reassurance in his warmth. Omar froze, startled by the unexpected intimacy, but the embrace felt natural, as though their spirits recognized each other. His heart raced. Memories of Earth's bustling markets and crowded festivals felt distant compared to this singular moment. He placed a hesitant hand on her back, unsure of the custom, but drawn by her silent plea. She pressed her head against his shoulder, her breath warm against his neck. He could feel her tears damp on his uniform. In a voice so soft it barely rippled. "The air," she whispered. "I have finally found you, my human." The words echoed in his mind, filling him with wonder and a trembling hope. She pulled back slightly so he could see her face, large glowing eyes that shone with relief and something deeper devotion, perhaps even love. In that instant, Omar understood that he was no mere explorer here. He was part of a story written long before his arrival, a tale of prophecy and longing. Light from the setting suns played across her features, illuminating the fine lines of her cheekbones and the gentle curve of her smile. Omar swallowed, his throat dry. He felt a pull in his chest, as though a tether linked their hearts across the void of space. The world around them seemed to fade. The distant hum of machines and the ripple of the desert wind were gone. All that remained was the princess's gaze and the promise in her embrace. He cleared his throat and offered a nervous smile. "I'm Dr. Omar Khalid. I study ancient civilizations." His voice sounded small in the vast courtyard, but she only nodded, eyes never leaving his. She released him gently and stepped back, raising her hand in a graceful gesture. He noticed the intricate designs on her palm symbols that matched those carved in the obelisks. She beckoned him to follow, her steps light as a feather. Omar swallowed his uncertainty and took a cautious step forward, curiosity and compassion guiding him. As he crossed the threshold toward the palace, Omar felt a stirring within him, a warmth that spoke of new beginnings. He had come to Ilsur 5 seeking answers in stone. Instead, he found a living heart reaching out across the stars. Path ahead was unknown, but as the princess led him toward the glowing palace doors, he sensed that together they would discover wonders beyond imagination. Dr. Omar Khalid awoke with a soft gasp, blinking against a gentle glow that filled the healing chamber. He lay on a smooth bioluminescent slab, the cool light shifting from violet to green as if breathing. His body felt heavy, but not in pain, just tired, like he had been carried on the wind for days. As his eyes adjusted, he saw the alien princess standing at the foot of the slab, her iridescent robes pooling around her feet. She watched him with deep concern, her large eyes reflecting relief. Omar tried to lift his hand, and the princess moved closer, placing a slender finger on his wrist. He felt a warm pulse beneath her touch. He tried to speak, but only a soft croak surfaced. She smiled gently and handed him a small cup of pale liquid. When he sipped it, a mild sweetness filled his mouth, and calm spread through his body. His racing mind slowed, and he felt safe. Though the world outside was strange, here in the healing chamber, with the princess watching over him, Omar felt a quiet hope blossom inside. Heiress Alana knelt beside him, her voice soft as the whisper of wind through flowers. She told Omar that Ilser Five scholars had studied ancient scripts for centuries, waiting for the arrival of a human, the one foretold to awaken their world's heart. The prophecy spoke of a visitor born under Earth's blue sun, whose compassion and ingenuity would restore the planet's lifeblood.
Oh, yes.
Omar listened in wonder as Aris described how her people believed a human heart held the key to reactivating the great crystal well at the planet's core. His own pulse raced. As he realized that he was more than a scientist here, he was part of a dream older than any living memory. Iris pressed her palm against his chest, over his heart, and he felt the living warmth of her touch. He met her gaze and saw gratitude, fear, and trust shining in her eyes. In that moment, Omar understood the weight of his presence on Ilser Five, and he accepted it with a humble nod. Slowly, Eris helped Omar sit up, guiding him to a cushioned bench carved from smooth white crystal. As he settled, she beckoned a small hovering drone to bring a silk blanket woven from bioluminescent fibers. The blanket curled around Omar's shoulders like a mother's embrace. He looked around at the chamber's walls, alive with soft patterns, of light that pulsed in time with his heartbeats. He felt as though the planet itself was welcoming him home. Despite the wonder, a flicker of doubt touched his mind. He was an earthling and engineer, not a savior. Could he truly heal an alien world? Sensing his hesitation, Eris reached out and took his hand. "Your mind, your heart, your very presence here is the gift they need," she whispered, her voice steady and sure. Omar's chest tightened. He felt tears prick his eyes. He squeezed her hand in return, drawing strength from her faith in him. As the glow in the chamber dimmed to a soft, dawn-like hue, Reese rose and extended her arm in invitation. "Come," she said, "the council awaits." Omar stood carefully, guided by Eris's gentle support. Though he felt fragile, his spirit burned brighter than ever before. He followed her through an archway of living crystal into a long corridor lined with tapestries that told the history of Ilser Five. Each scene showed a flourishing world, until the final tapestry portrayed a land in shadow, its heart silenced. Eris paused before it, her hand resting on the glassy surface. She glanced at Omar and offered a small, hopeful smile. He took a deep breath and stepped forward. Together, they walked toward the high chamber where the Council of Elders would decide their next steps. With every echo of his boots on the crystalline floor, Omar felt the thrill of destiny unfolding, and though fear still lingered, he knew he would face whatever came, not as a lone scientist, but as the promise of two worlds intertwined. ChatGPT said, Dr. Omar Khalid followed Princess Eris Alana down the glowing corridor, his boots tapping softly against the smooth crystal floor. Each step echoed with the weight of his new role. He felt both pride and a tremor of doubt. The tapestries on the walls told a sad story. Ilser Five once thrived under a warm sun, its people united by compassion and creativity. Now they stood divided by fear and a fading world. Omar's heart ached as he looked at the pale images of empty fields and silent cities. He reached out to touch one tapestry, tracing the outline of a withered tree. Eris placed her hand over his, and he felt her steady confidence. In that small gesture, he found courage to face the council. They entered a vast circular chamber where elders sat on carved seats of living crystal. Each elder's robes glowed faintly green for healers, blue for scholars, and silver for engineers. At the center stood a low podium etched with the same symbols Omar had seen on the obelisks. Eris led him forward, and the elders bowed their heads in respect. Omar offered a trembling bow in return. The eldest elder, her hair shining like starlight, spoke in a gentle voice. "Human Omar Khalid, we welcome your presence. Speak of your journey and your purpose here." Omar steadied his breath, recalling Eris's faith in him. He described his work on Earth, how he solved problems with creativity, how he believed in kindness as a force stronger than any war. His voice grew firmer as he spoke of the promise he felt in his heart. As Omar spoke, the chamber's glow brightened, as though the well of their collective hope stirred. The scholars exchanged glances, recalling the ancient prophecy. The engineers leaned forward, envisioning practical ways to renew the crystal. Well, when Omar finished, the eldest elder rose and approached him. She placed a delicate crystal diadem on his head, a symbol of unity between human and Ilsarin. The diadem fit perfectly, warming his skin. Murmurs of joy and relief rose from the elders. Omar felt tears prick his eyes. He realized that he was no longer an outsider, but a partner in their fate. Eris stepped beside him, her hand finding his. Together they shared a moment of triumph and hope. After the council meeting, Eris guided Omar to a sunlit balcony overlooking the palace gardens. Strange bioluminescent flowers swayed in a gentle breeze, and crystal fountains sang soft melodies. Omar inhaled the rich, sweet scent and let the warmth of the twin suns wash over him. Eris turned to him with a soft smile. "You have given us hope," she said. Omar felt a wave of emotion. He thought of Earth's crowds cheering at a stadium. But here the cheers were reflected in the sparkle of every crystal petal and the quiet gratitude in Eris's eyes. He squeezed her hand and smiled back. "I will do all I can," he promised. Over the next hours, Omar met the planet's greatest minds. He walked in the great library among floating books of living light, learning of nature's bonds on Ilsar 5. He spoke with engineers who shaped crystal structures, artists who painted emotions on the sky with beams of light, and healers who read hearts like open books. Each encounter filled him with awe and responsibility. Everywhere he went, people greeted him with kindness and expectation. Omar realized that their faith in him would carry as much weight as any technology he devised. He pledged to use both his mind and his heart for their healing. As dusk approached, Omar and Eris returned to the crystal well chamber. The vast cavern was silent, its walls pulsing weakly. Omar placed his palm on the cool surface and closed his eyes. He thought of every person he had met today, their trust, their hopes, their gentle smiles. A single tear fell onto the crystal. Light flickered. Eris watched, breath held. Omar took a steadying breath and whispered to the well, "We are here for you." A soft hum rose in the chamber. Though the full power had not yet returned, a promise glowed in the crystal's heart. Omar opened his eyes and met Eris's gaze. Together, they knew the real work would begin tomorrow. But tonight, they shared a spark of rebirth, and the bond between a human and an alien princess burned brighter than ever. Dr. Omar Khalid woke before dawn to the soft glow of Ilsar 5's twin suns rising on the horizon. He slipped from the crystal bed and dressed in simple canvas trousers and a tunic spun from bioluminescent threads. Way in the corridor he found Princess Ariz, Ilana, waiting. Her robes shimmered in the early light, and she smiled as he approached. Omar felt a gentle flutter in his chest, that familiar warmth of hope and wonder. Without a word, they set off toward the heart of the palace, their footsteps echoing softly on the polished floor. They walked through the grand hall of living crystal, where glowing vines crawled across translucent walls. Engineers had gathered, tending intricate machines that hummed like distant thunder. Omar paused before a large device, a lattice of crystal filaments suspended in a circular frame. He remembered studying the ancient schematics with Eris the night before. Now it was time to bring the design to life. He drew a breath and approached the engineers, offering a steady smile and clear instructions. Though they communicated in a different language, his gentle tone and her patient translations paved the way for understanding. Under Eris's watchful eye, Omar guided the team in assembling the interface. He pressed sensors against the crystal, calibrating each filament to resonate with his own heart rate. As he worked, Eris stood beside him, her hand near his, but never touching except when she brushed a loose strand of hair from his forehead. Omar felt strength in her silent support. The engineers responded with careful precision, their movements graceful and sure. In every gesture, Omar sensed their shared trust, a bond formed not by blood, but by purpose. By midday, they had completed the interface. Omar placed his palm on the crystal surface and closed his eyes. He felt the pulse of his heart, slow and steady, echo through the device. A soft hum filled the chamber, and the filaments glowed with a pale blue light. Ares watched him, her eyes shining with pride. Omar opened his eyes to find the engineers applauding softly. He nodded in gratitude, cheeks warm with emotion. In that moment, he knew that he belonged here not as an outsider, but as a partner in Ilser V's rebirth. Eris led Omar to the palace gardens for a brief rest. Beneath towering trees with leaves like spun glass, they sat on a crystalline bench. Omar tasted a piece of fruit that melted on his tongue like liquid honey. As they ate, Eris spoke quietly of her childhood, of playing in these very gardens under a gentle sun before the world began to dim. Omar listened, imagining her laughter echoing among the trees. He shared memories of Earth's green forests and clear streams. They spoke of home and belonging, weaving their stories together under the soft rustle of alien leaves. Refreshed, they returned to the crystal well chamber. The great cavern yawned before them, the walls alive with dormant patterns. Omar walked to the edge of the well and peered down into its depths. He could feel the sadness there, as though the planet itself wept. He turned to Eris, her face pale in the half-light. Omar laid a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We will bring it back," he said gently. Eris nodded, drawing strength from his certainty. Together, they climbed the winding path toward the well's controlled dais. At the dais, Omar activated the interface. The engineers and scholars gathered around in respectful silence. He focused on the promise. He carried the faith of an entire people resting on his resolve. Eris pressed her hand against his back, a steady anchor. Omar inhaled deeply and placed both palms on the crystal surface. He closed his eyes and summoned memories of kindness and creativity from Earth. Children sharing stories, builders crafting homes, musicians weaving melodies. His heart beat in time with those memories, sending pulses of light into the wells. Filaments. Slowly the well responded. Soft glow spread outward, bathing the cavern in warmth. Crystals on the walls began to pulse in harmony, and the air trembled with renewed energy. Gasps of awe echoed as light rippled through the water-like surface of the well. Omar opened his eyes to see Eris's tears of joy. He felt a wellspring of emotion himself, pride, relief, and a deep growing affection for the princess who believed. In him, in that shining moment, he understood that their partnership was more than a legend fulfilled. It was the beginning of a new story, one written by the hearts of two worlds joined at last. Dr. Omar Khalid rose early, the palace still wrapped in pre-dawn shadows, as he joined Princess Ares Alana in the vast workshop beside the crystal well chamber. Today they would build the full-scale resonance amplifier in intricate lattice of living crystal and alien alloys that would magnify the human heart's pulse to awaken Ilser V's core. Omar's fingers trembled slightly as he unpacked the crystal filaments, each one humming faintly with stored energy. Eris watched him with calm confidence, her presence a quiet assurance. He met her gaze and felt his nerves settle. Together, they would succeed. They worked side by side beneath glowing arches of living crystal. Omar studied the ancient schematics, projected by Eris's drone, adjusting dimensions and angles. He guided the Ilseran engineers in weaving the filaments into the alloy frame. Each filament had to align perfectly, or the amplifier would shatter under the strain of cosmic resonance. As they worked, Eris brought him small bowls of fruit that sparkled like precious gems. He ate slowly between tasks, marveling at its honeyed flavor. Every taste grounded him in the moment, reminding him why he had come so far. Midway through assembly, a shudder rocked the workshop. One filament flickered and snapped, releasing a shock of light that set Omar's heart racing. He dropped his tools, stepping back as the engineers scrambled to contain the flare. His chest tightened with guilt. "I'm sorry," he whispered, reaching to steady a trembling engineer. Eris placed a hand on his arm. "Mistakes teach us," she said softly. "Breathe, Omar," inhaled the crisp air, recalling her first words to him in the desert, that his compassion and brilliance were both gifts. He knelt and examined the broken filament, tracing the fracture's path. Slowly, he understood how to reinforce it with a thin alloy sheath. Guided by his hands and her encouragement, he replaced the filament. Light pulsed smoothly through it, brighter than before. As Ilsar V's twin suns climbed, the amplifier took shape. Omar stood back to admire their work. An elegant structure of shimmering crystal arms reaching toward the ceiling, connected by a web of alloy veins. At its heart lay a crystal chamber designed to receive a human heartbeat. The engineers and scholars gathered around, their faces alight with hope. Omar's own heart pounded not with fear this time, but with a quiet excitement. He placed a hand on the chamber surface, feeling its cool smoothness. Eris knelt beside him. "Are you ready?" she asked, voice steady.
Eyes.
Meeting hers, "Let's awaken our world together." They carried the amplifier into the great cavern that housed the crystal well. The chamber's walls glowed faintly, awaiting the spark of life. Omar guided the device to its platform and secured it in place. Engineers connected energy conduits, and scholars adjusted tuning nodes. Every movement was careful, precise as if the planet itself held its breath. Omar stepped onto the dais and placed his palms on the amplifier's core. Eris stood behind him, her fingertips brushing his shoulders in silent support. He closed his eyes, imagining Earth's green forests and rushing river symbols of life and renewal. Memories of laughter echoing in crowded plazas filled his mind. He felt his pulse slow and strengthen, each beat a steady drum of purpose. A soft hum began in the amplifier, growing as the filaments absorbed his heartbeat. Light shimmered through the crystal arms, tracing patterns of warmth along their lengths. Eris watched the readings on her console, her eyes shining with pride. Omar felt energy flow from his heart into the device, and a gentle warmth spread beneath his palms. The well chamber responded. The glowing vines on the walls pulsed in time, and echoes of light rippled across the water-like surface of the well. A gentle breeze swirled, carrying the scent of alien blossoms. Omar's chest swelled with emotion, hope, relief, and a deep gratitude for the princess who believed in him. As the amplifier reached full resonance, a wave of brilliant light flooded the cavern. Crystals on every wall sang with renewed energy, and the well's waters glowed like liquid starlight. The crowd gasped, some wept, as Ilsar V exhaled its first breath of life in centuries. Eris moved beside Omar and embraced him, her arms firm around his waist. He closed his eyes against the brilliance and felt tears of joy wet his cheeks. In that shining moment, he understood that their bond, human and alien, had kindled a rebirth more magnificent than any prophecy. Together, they had given Ilsar V a future, and in doing so, discovered a love that would echo across the stars. Dr. Omar Khalid stood before the crystal well chamber at dawn, its walls still aglow from the night's renewal. He watched as delicate vines of light wove along the stone, carrying warmth through every crack. The air felt alive, humming with promise. Omar drew a deep breath, tasting the sweet alien dawn. Around him, engineers gathered to measure the well's output. He felt a quiet pride in their eager faces. This was the world he had helped heal, and every pulse of light was a testament to hope reborn. The Council of Elders convened again, this time in celebration rather than ceremony. Elders in robes of green, blue, and silver filled the high hall, their voices bright with gratitude. Omar presented his next plan, to build energy conduits that would carry the well's power across the planet. The scholars nodded, as they sketched mapping grids, and the engineers began testing new crystal alloys. Though the task was immense, Omar felt ready. He had learned their language of light and stone, and they had learned to trust his human mind. Over the following days, Omar worked alongside Ilsarin engineers in the workshop. He taught them how to shape alloy frames with his handheld tools and how to calibrate energy flows using simple Earth equations. At first, they hesitated at his foreign methods, but as prototypes lit up under crystal arches, their confidence grew. Omar smiled as he watched a young engineer place a conduit segment into the ground, its glow pulsing with life. In return, the engineers shared their own secrets: how to infuse living vines into crystal to stabilize energy, and how to sing too. The conduits so they would resonate long after his tools were gone, in the quiet moments between tasks. Princess Heiress Ilana found Omar in the palace gardens. She guided him among blossoming trees, their petals shimmering like softly falling stars. Omar marveled at the colors: blues deeper than Earth's oceans, pinks brighter than any sunrise. Heiress touched his arm gently and pointed to a cluster of bioluminescent flowers. "They bloom because of you," she said. Omar pressed a hand to his chest, heart swelling. He had come as a stranger, and now each petal was a testament to their shared hope. Evenings brought them to the palace balcony. Under Ilser V's twin moons, Omar and Heiress sat side by side on a crystal bench, watching the sky shift from violet to silver. They spoke of Earth and Ilser V, of the laughter of children and the quiet hum of healing energy. Omar told her about his family, his mother's cooking, his father's tall tales, and his sister's laughter. Ari shared memories of her grandmother teaching her to read the constellations and of secret dances in moonlit courtyards. Their words wove together, a tapestry of two worlds. Becoming one, one morning a messenger arrived with news of distant storms raging in the eastern valleys. Torrents of acid rain threatened newly planted fields and delicate energy conduits. Omar studied the report with Heiress at his side. His mind raced through possible solutions: shielding fields with crystal domes, diverting energy to create weather barriers. He felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders again. But Heiress squeezed his hand and whispered, "We face this together." In that moment, Omar knew his courage grew from more than his own strength. It grew from the trust between them. By midday, plans were drawn. Engineers set out toward the valleys, carrying portable amplifiers that Omar had designed. Omar and Heiress led a small team, moving swiftly through newly healed forests and along glowing streams. The air carried the scent of regeneration, but also the tension of approaching storms. Omar felt his heart pound not with fear, but with determination. He would not let this world suffer again. As thunder rolled on the horizon, Omar activated the first amplifier. He placed his palm on the crystal core, just as he had before, and closed his eyes. Heiress stood close, her presence steady and warm. He called to mind every moment of hope they had, shared the prophecy fulfilled, the well restored, the vines of light blooming. His heartbeat echoed through the device, sending ripples of energy into the gathering clouds. Above them, the storm paused as though listening. A soft glow spread from the amplifier, weaving into the clouds and gently pushing the worst of the rain away from the crops. The team watched in awe as acid droplets turned to harmless mist. Omar opened his eyes. Heiress's face shone with pride and gratitude. He felt tears prick his eyes, not of sorrow, but of triumph. Together, they had saved another part of Ilser V. Hand in hand, human and princess stood beneath the shifting sky, ready to face whatever came next. Their bond, forged in light and trust, would guide them and their worlds into a future brighter than any prophecy had foretold. Dr. Omar Khalid stood at the edge of the crystal well chamber, watching the final ripples of light fade into steady glow. Around him, the vines of living crystal pulsed with calm energy, a gentle reminder of the life he helped restore. A quiet pride in every heartbeat that echoed through the planet's core. Princess Heiress Ilana joined him, her hand brushing his arm as she smiled. Together, they remembered their first meeting in the desert, the hush that fell when she whispered, his name, and the promise they had fulfilled. Omar's heart swelled with emotion relief that Ilsur 5 thrived again, gratitude for the trust of an entire people, and a gentle sadness that their time here would soon change. He closed his eyes and breathed deeply of the warm alien air, letting the moment sink into his bones. In the days that followed, Omar and Ares toured the renewed valleys and forests. They saw children playing beneath crystal-tipped trees, farmers tending glowing fields fed by steady conduits, and scholars teaching new generations to read the ancient symbols of hope. Each smile they passed reminded Omar why he had come so far from Earth, yet with every joyful scene a question lingered in his mind. Where did he belong now? Ira sensed his thoughts and took his hand as they paused by a sparkling stream. "You are with me," she said softly. "Your heart is part of our world, and our world is part of you." Omar looked into her shining eyes and felt warmth spread through his chest. In that moment, he knew his journey was not ending but transforming into something beyond prophecy. When the time came to prepare for his return to Earth, the palace buzzed with both celebration and gentle farewells. Engineers presented him with a small crystal pendant that held a drop of well-watered and eternal reminder of Ilsur 5's heart. Scholars gifted him a star map etched in living light, pinpointing Ilsur 5's place among the galaxies. Eris wove a crown of bioluminescent flowers and placed it on Omar's head, glowed softly, a symbol of unity and hope shining between their worlds. Omar felt tears rise, but he smiled, leaning forward to brush his lips against her cheek. "I will carry you with me," he whispered. The princess pressed her forehead to his and closed her eyes, sharing his quiet promise. On the morning of his departure, the twin suns rose in a sky painted with gentle pastels. Omar stood beside Iris on the palace balcony, the shuttle waiting. Below, he wore his Earth uniform, modified with crystal inlays that pulsed with soft light. Ares held his hand tightly, her robes fluttering in the warm breeze. The crowd gathered, their faces alight with hope and love. Omar raised his free hand in farewell, voice steady as he spoke. "Thank you for believing in me," he said. "I will return, and together we will build new bridges between our worlds." A cheer rose that echoed through the palace halls and beyond into the shining fields. As Omar stepped into the shuttle, Iris pressed her palm against the viewport. He did the same on the inside, their images merging in the glass. Then the engines roared to life, and the shuttle lifted, carrying him toward Earth. Below, Ilsur 5 glowed in renewed splendor, its heart beating in time with his own. Though separated by space, Omar and Eris knew their bond would stretch across the stars, guiding both worlds into a future brighter than any prophecy had dreamed.